as I told you earlier, I got hired on the first night. Well, while I'm in the shower, guess who comes and tells me I got hired? Pat Patterson.
Very interesting.
That's the only thing that could be.
What did you think about all those rumors and the stuff with allegedly Steve Lombardi at the time that Kamala claims to have happened?
I could very easily see it. I think just from like I said, I laid low for the most part, but I could see that happening. I don't know. I just think something's not right. You know.
Did you ever have any weird experiences with Pat Patterson?
I was in line to get food at a TV taping, and he came from behind and tried to pull my pants down, but that was it. But he just laughed, and I laughed it off, and that was that.
What was the rumor with Pat and Jim Powers? Did you ever hear about that?
Yeah, it was funny. I forgot how it all went, but basically Jimmy was propositioned, and it was just to lay there on his back, not to do anything. Just basically, I'm not going to say this, but basically all he had to do was get a blowjob, and of course he turned it down. And then Jimmy and I are great friends, and we used to travel the road together then. And he was like, because Jimmy was good, a good worker, and very good, and built good looking guy. He had everything going. And I asked him one time, I said, I wonder why they're not using you better. I mean, you got the looks, you got the charisma, you got everything. And he goes, I think it's about that time I didn't do that. And he goes, man, if I just had it to do over. Second guess not laying there and taking one. Not taking one, backside. I mean, just getting blown.
I was actually going to go punch out Pat Patterson once. He was rude to my fiance, then wife now. So I was like, oh, he was rude to you? All right, well, I guess I'm going to go punch Pat. So I come marching over all in a mood. And Christian walks up, hey, this is my first day, my first TV as a regular TV guy. And Christian walks up, Joe, you all right? Matt, I said, yeah, I'm going to go punch Pat. It was nice working with you. And he's like, well, why? And I explained to him, he goes, well, don't. I said, I'm gonna, screw this guy. So I kept marching, and Jay's like, Adam, get over here. So Adam goes over, what's going on? I said, I'm going to punch Pat. So I had to explain to him, and I kept moving. Then Jericho comes over, and the three of them were like, look, Pat wouldn't do that to Taker's wife because Taker's got position. Do you want to throw away everything you've worked towards now for one punch? Just shut up, grit your teeth, and when you're in a better position where they'd be stupid to kick you out, then assert your dominance, assert your masculinity, whatever you want to call it. And they made perfect sense. And to be honest, they were all three really well pushed guys. So I thought, okay, they know the political landscape better than I do because I'm a terrible politician. So I listened to them, and perhaps I should have followed my heart and just. I mean, I guarantee WCW probably would have looked if I'd punched Pat Patterson. I imagine the next day Eric Bischoff would have had a phone call to me, if nothing else, to offer me something. I would have I would have made money for a year, and then I would have got probably the same rough treatment that Jarrett or one of those Goldust got when Vince bought the company and leaned on him on that crossover episode.
Someone on here is asking if you were around during that whole Pat Patterson, Mel Phillips, Terry Garvin sex scandal, or if you ever noticed anything weird with those guys.
Yeah, you hear so much stuff, Who gives a shit about three fucking each other? That never interested me.
With all those accusations that came out about Garvin in later years, Terry Garvin, do you think that was all blown out of proportion, or do you think there was anything to that?
I don't know. He was gay, and he was wide open with it. I mean, it was not a secret. He let everybody know. He wasn't bashful. He had his own life. He had his own life, and I had my wife, I had my kids, and I had a different life.
Terry and the giant in the back, Coco was in the front seat, and I'm driving. Terry's bisexual. All of a sudden the boss says, Coco, He says, yeah, boss. He said, come here, I want to tell you something. So Coco bends over like this. Yeah, boss. Andre snatches him in a front face lock. Coco is saying, loosen up, loosen up. Well, he turns his ass backwards, and there's Terry Garvin with his pants down. Terry's cutting a promo on Coco saying, oh man, I love that dark meat, and boy, I'm just gonna get some tonight. And the boss is going, ah, ha, ha, ha. He's just laughing. Oh. Terry's got an erection, and he's slapping the back of Coco's, he's got his, I hear his pants go, and Coco's screaming now for bloody murder. And I hit the brakes and I to pull over, and I hear Coco go, ah, hey, hey. And I don't know what happened. No idea what happened. And all of a sudden I get the car over, and Coco jumps out of the car and he starts running.
Is it true that Sylvan Granier was actually stripping at the same club with your dad for a while?
From what I've heard, I think he did. I'm not sure. And like, even though I say yes, I don't want to get into it because I don't want him to like go too crazy about it. But what I've heard is that my dad knew a stripper that was proposed to become a pro wrestler by Pat Patterson, and the guy didn't like wrestling really, so he proposed this friend Sylvain instead.
Okay.
My dad tried to get Pat Patterson to give him opportunities, and me too, but it never really worked. So
because your dad knew Pat Patterson because he would frequent that male strip club, I guess.
I guess it's what we thought, you know. Like I'd push him to it, be like, "Yo, Dad, tell him I want to meet him. Tell him I want a shot." You know, like it's nothing about the gay stuff or whatever. Like I don't care. My brother's gay. My dad is bisexual. You know, like I don't give a shit. I just want to wrestle. You know what I mean?
What memories do you have of Pat Patterson? Other than, of course, Jim Ross telling a fake story on the podcast that he later apologized for, where he confused you as like best buddies with Pat Patterson.
No, I always liked Pat. Pat pushed a lot for the Canadian guys. You know what I mean? Like Jericho, Bret Hart, they all owe their careers to Pat. You know, they should admit it too. You know. Even in some meetings, we'd have these meetings. I used to call them group therapy sessions before the shows, production meetings. And he would stand up and put me over in front of the whole group, you know.
Someone on here was asking earlier your thoughts on Sylvan Granier's time as a producer with the WWE.
So did you do some research? Has he gotten released?
I have no idea, actually. All I know is he did a commentary job for Impact.
Well, I texted him as soon as I heard Pat was gone. I just, gave him my condolences and said, hope he's well. But I can't imagine him staying along now that Pat's gone.
Was it them that approached you with that job, or were you calling them to try and get jobs prior to the gobbledygooker?
Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'll tell you the truth here. I was calling them because I really wanted to get into the WWE. I thought I had a potential, and maybe they'd give me an opportunity, like all of us that tried, And so one day I called, and finally somebody picked up the phone and he says, "Who is this?" I mean, really nasty. I'll tell you who it was. It was Pat Patterson. He says, "Hey," he says, how did you get this number?" Because I had got the number for the booking office up in Connecticut, Stanford, and he says, "Now, don't ever call here again." And they hung up on me. And so I said, "You know what? If, they can take it." And I didn't think about it.
Was Pat Patterson nicer to you in person?
Look, Pat, Pat's already gone. We shouldn't talk about each other about, Pat was a great wrestler. I saw him wrestle against my dad in El Paso. I got a lot of respect for him for that. He was a great wrestler and knew how to wrestle. Oh my God, was he great. I mean, I saw matches with him with my father, and they were great wrestling matches. So that he didn't, I don't know. I'm not going to say nay or great, but he treated me that time. That was the truth of what I told you on the phone.
I had heard the stories where, supposedly Pat would call Sean's room all night long or knock on his door trying to get him to concede or whatever. So my very first trip in the WWF was I was brought to the building by myself. I was dropped off there, and all I was there was just to watch, understand, see how they did TVs and how the WWF did their operation. Well, I ended up riding with back to the room that night with Pat, Vince, JJ, and Howard Finkel. And worked out with Vince that day. He had me picked up in a limo with him. We went to the gym, worked out, went back to his room, took a shower, and went to the building. Well, we're all now having dinner, and Vince goes to the bathroom, and I think Vince is sitting across from me, and Pat's sitting over, and Pat leans over me and says, "What an ass on that guy." I was thinking, oh God, and then he goes, "Heard y'all had a really good workout today." He said, I said, "Yeah, Pat, it was just a workout, So that was a little awkward there. So we get to the hotel. This is Canada when the lightning is going on. He says, "Hey, you want to come to our balcony and watch lightning tonight?" I went, "No, I don't want to watch lightning tonight." So he grabs me at the counter and says, "I got the big son of a bitch in the waist up." So I really went around. I was like a real shoot, and I don't know chain wrestling. I really don't. But I learned it real quick. So I put my arm in and got around him and said, "No, you don't have me either." I said, "I'm going to my room." And I really was scared that night. And I don't think they were walking by my room, but I had convinced myself of that.
Yeah.
And again,
it could have been written.
It could just been real. It probably was. But again, it was like, no, I don't want to watch lightning with you tonight,
I've often talked about the story of Jim Powers. Jim, really good guy. Same thing. Good looking guy, great build, very athletic. We were traveling together and working out together, and we were supposed to get up. We had a TV taping, and then the next morning we were going to get up early and go to the gym. I came downstairs waiting for him and didn't show up for breakfast. I went and called his room, and they said he's checked out. I'm like, what do you mean he's checked out? I thought about like another room or something, because we're in the middle of a tour. And they said, no, he's checked out. And I tried calling. This is before cell phones. This is 1990. So it was several months later, and he never saw him again on the road. And a couple months later, we connected up and talked, and he told me, and at the time I had no way to corroborate the story other than what he was telling me. I didn't know him to be a bullshitter. He said that after the taping that night, I think they were getting ready to put the belts on him, Roma, as the Stallions. And he got a phone call, he said, around midnight. I can remember it was the 11th floor. He said that he got a phone call around midnight with a voice whispering, said that if you like your spot and you value it, want to keep it, go up to the 11th floor, room 11 whatever, that the door would be open and lights turned out, said go and lay on the bed, someone will come in and service you. Well, he figured it was a rib and just hung the phone up and went to bed. That early the next morning gets a phone call and was sent home, and that was the last time he worked for them. Again, I can't corroborate the story other than that's what Jim told me. There were a lot of strange things like that went on up there.
And just because you mentioned Jim Powers, there's always been the rumor about Pat Patterson and Jim Powers. Did you ever hear anything about that?
Because Jimmy told me, me and Jimmy are real good friends. But what Jimmy was telling me one time, he was like, "Marty, damn it," he goes, "Pat Patterson, he offered me," he said, "all I got to do," and I love you, Pat, sorry to tell the story, it's true, and we've already talked about it, and I do love Pat, not like that, but I do love Pat, but I guess he wanted Jim to come to a hotel room and just oh, I say it right.
Hang out. Yeah, hang out. Well, apparently he asked Sid to go watch lightning on the balcony at his hotel room once. That's what Sid didn't know what. But I guess Pat was going to honk on Bobo. That's all. Jimmy didn't even have to be a pitcher or a catcher. You just get. You gonna have to edit this out. Just get. but so Jimmy, he didn't go for it, and then he worked his out. He was great working out and shit. And he worked hard, and he was a good worker. And he was telling me one time, he goes, we're making a trip. He goes, and he was just kidding, but it's still funny. He goes, "God damn, Marty, you know what, man? If I had that decision to make again, all I had to do was lay there."
Wow, there was so many rumors with Pat and different boys. It's you can't even really go to the end of that story because You don't know what happened, you know. If
But Powers was one of the ones that was always in the mix. There was a rumor, right?
Yeah, he was trying to get a push from the back, I guess.
Pat Patterson comes up to me and he tells me, "Oh, sit down, let's talk. And I guess you can call me a little bit of a hothead. They had the 8-foot table sitting up against the wall long ways, and he's sitting his back up against the wall. And I was standing on the side of the table. And he again builds it, "Oh, you know, it's good to have you here. It's a family business. You're gonna make a lot of money," a little French Canadian. "You're gonna make a lot of money, and oh, we'll give you a gimmick, and oh, you'll be worldwide famous. You'll make a lot of money." And kept on and kept on and kept on. He said, "And besides, here you go both ways." And when he said that, I just kicked him off the table. I said, he said, no, I'm talking bad guy or good guy. What do you think I meant? And I've been at hotels with everybody checking in, and he'd be in the back and somebody up front, I'm not mentioning names, he'd say 2 beds, and Pat would be hollering from the back, 1 bed will be fine. And the guy put his head down and said, 1 bed. And it just like, that was right before all of this happened. I was like, I'm out of this. And the next day,
what was his reaction when you kicked the table? He was just panicked.
Oh no, he just stood up like, "Oh no, what do you think I meant? I was talking bad guy or good guy."
Right.
You know, everybody knows he was married to Louis, a guy. You know, so it wasn't strange. And when he told me that, it's like I said, maybe I'm a little bit of a hothead, but I didn't appreciate that at all. And that was the end of the conversation.
Steve Lombardi, that was his age. I heard him talk about it, but Steve said he never bothered me. But I don't believe that.
That's right, because Steve Lombardi was kimchi, wasn't he?
Yes.
What did you think about the rumors that Lombardi had his job so long because of his relationship, I guess, with Patterson?
Yeah. Well, I knew that. I knew that from the beginning, that he had been there for many years. And I knew he could stay long as he wanted to because of Pat Patterson.
Do you think that was just rumor, that they were more than just friends, or do you think there's actually something to that?
No, I think there's something to it. I don't believe it was just rumors, because I saw Pat Patterson one time. We was all at the hotel, and I'm standing up there, so Steve Lombardi get my room because I tried to take care of my gimmick. And then he said, "And then I want one for me, a singer room." Pat Patterson said, "No, a king." And they both stayed in the room together. Yeah. So it was something to it.
You know, oh, if Jim Powers is getting a push, must be because, look at him, he's got a good body. Pat's probably, I mean, you know, I heard the stories too. Steve Lombardi, I heard the stories too. You know, I know as much as anybody else, but I don't know. You know, who knows?
But it was kind of an uncomfortable time, that kind of stuff being talked about. But I never saw it with my own eyes, but, you know, the guys would say what they saw. And that's the eyes I'd be hearing through and looking through, you know.
You don't fit the profile either, though.
No. Well, I asked Pat one time, I said, "Pat," I said, me and Duggan, we were laughing, we were all of them laughing, they were all drinking one time at Legend's house. I said, "Pat, you know," I said, "Jim and I were talking," and Duggan hadn't said a word about this. This is from my brain. I said, they were all sitting around having beers and shots of stuff, and Gino. I said, "Duggan and I always wondered, all the years you've known me and him, how come you never took a shot at me and Jimmy?" He said, "Oh, are you kidding? You two aren't my type."